The Jim Channel Podcast, bringing you the big picture on geoscientific information management through interviews and discussions.
Hello everyone, my name is Misha Stacker and I'm welcoming you to today's episode of Acquire's podcast, The Jim Channel, which we're hosting from the trade show floor at the annual Mineral Exploration Conference PDAC 2018. Today I'm actually joined by two guest speakers. We have Stan Holy from CSA Global. Hi Stan.
Hi Misha, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. And we've also got Alison Atkins, our Managing Director from Acquire. Hi Alison, how are you?
Good, how are you, Mish?
I'm great, thanks. So just a little bit of background, firstly on our main guest speaker here, Stan. So Stan is a geologist and a manager with 25 years experience in exploration and mining geology. As the president of the Americas for CSA Global, Stan is focused on ensuring that his network of staff and associates across the globe work collaboratively to achieve best outcomes for their clients. So that actually he provides a high-level advice on a diverse range of topics from project management, valuations, and geo-corporate strategy relating to ASX, TSX, and LSE reporting and compliance. So yeah, lots of experience there, Stan.
Been around long enough, it's bound to happen.
Absolutely. So Stan, just quickly, what does actually bring you to PDAC this year?
CSA is a geological consultancy, and so coming to these kind of trade events is really important. We get to talk to our clients. They're all in one spot usually. We have many clients here, but it's also an opportunity to engage with other service providers to see what new technologies are coming into the industry, and that's really important part, I think, of being a good consultant is staying abreast of new trends.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alison, what about you from the Acquire perspective? You know, what brings us here, I guess? What's your view of being at PDAC this year?
Well, I guess PDAC is one of our flagship events, so we ensure that we represent what we're doing within the technology. We engage with our customers, both existing customers, and we also look at the organisations that we're engaging with from a commercial opportunity perspective. It's also about looking at trends, so not only connecting with our technology partners and just looking at trends within the industry, but looking at where the industry is going as a whole. So there's a lot of great presentations that are given, but also just within the trade floor, looking at what's new within our space, in the med space.
Yeah, great. Stan, you sort of mentioned new innovations and some new technologies. So what are some of the innovations that you're seeing emerging at this point in time?
I think there's, from a geological perspective, I'm a geologist by background, so that's probably where I focus a lot of my energy. But I think sort of at-rig or real-time analysis and connectivity is something that you'll see kind of, there's a whole lot of things, whether that's kind of XRF analysis, it can be downhole televiewers, it can be spectral data. All of these tools are now really available to give you a very good understanding of what the mineral deposit looks like in its entirety in a much faster time frame than was previous. And I think we've still got a way to go on that. A lot of tools have been developed. Now it's the connectivity and how do we get that into the hands of the geoscientist a bit faster so they can use those data. But that and then the analysis of that data. I think it's great collecting all these data streams, but you've got to use them. You've got to have a purpose in mind for them, and you've got to analyse them correctly. And I think machine learning you hear it a lot, but it is now becoming quite important for looking at analysis of these large data sets that we're collecting.
Yeah, I think just one thing, we just had a live panel discussion at the Acquire booth and we're talking about some issues around the digital mine, and I think we had a question on machine learning there, and one thing that you did say is that, you know, it's really important to get data ready before you can actually use things like AI and machine learning. So, you know, is there a lot of value in data at the moment?
I think there's always been value in data, but I also think that there's a stronger recognition now that data is really important. And I think going forward, that's only going to get more important. Data is the fundamental basis of all decision making in our industry. And so making sure it's well collected and it's reliable, and then put in a safe location. I guess that's where Acquire comes in. They're very good at having that safe location for your data and really good tools to manage that data. And then, the last stage is analysis. And if you do those first two stages correctly, the analysis is much easier for everybody, and it's more reliable, and it's usually better, superior, the outcome.
Yeah. And Alison, what about you? Are you sort of noticing any key innovations or trends in the last few days being here at PDAC?
Well, I guess just to sort of reinforce what Stan was saying, ultimately, artificial intelligence, machine learning are definitely the key trends we're seeing. There was quite a few fantastic presentations this morning, including one of our clients who presented what they're doing within their organisation, which was Goldcorp. Everyone's collecting a lot of data, but you need to understand why you're collecting the information, then having a consolidated foundation of where you're storing that information to make it usable. And even when you're interrogating and doing the learnings from this, you need to have some sort of foundation to understand, well, what is it I'm trying to achieve and get out of this? And what patterns am I looking for? It definitely doesn't replace the geoscientist within this. This is actually to capitalise off their expertise and their understanding of the industry, and really allowing them to have more informed information to make decisions from.
And what are you seeing as some of the biggest challenges in the industry at the moment, as we do move towards the digital mine? How are we going to get there, basically? What are the challenges sort of along the way there?
And again, this was touched upon in our panel discussion earlier today. Ultimately, a lot of this comes down to standards. And Stan again mentioned during the panel discussion, looking at how we can look outside our space to see what other industries are doing. So the oil and gas industry is definitely doing things a lot more effectively when it comes to data than we do. So it's looking at how we can collaborate and engage more, not only across the individual mining companies, but also with the METS industry as a whole, how we can work together to really improve the standards and the processes within the industry. And again, it comes down to compliance as well. So looking at what can we do to ensure that there is a minimum level of compliance with the information that's collected and how it's reported.
What about you, Stan? Are you sort of seeing any specific challenges in your space, as a consultancy background?
Look, I think the key challenge with everything, almost, is people. People are required to do everything, and we're talking about computers analysing data and all of that, but it's still a human that presses the button to tell them to do it, and I'm hopeful that it'll always be that way. But I think where we're at now is a lot of our universities have taught good geoscience, and I hope that they still do that. It's really the most important part. But I think there is an opportunity to start training them to use data and see data as being able to use data more effectively, and so giving them tools so they understand a little bit about machine learning, not teach them to be some kind of just machine learning genius, but understand the tools. And I think there are some universities that do. I was talking to some students earlier today at the student networking lunch, and there are some of the universities that are doing that. They, like Laurentian, I know, provides Leapfrog to their students, for example. I think that's a great idea. And Leapfrog probably gave them, so good work, Leapfrog. And that's great, it means he comes out and he already knows one of the tools that gets used quite often in exploration, and he's able to talk the talk straight out of university, which is always a good step up.
Yeah, I guess it's we're trying to make sure that at the education level before people enter the industry that they're starting to get those skills there. I mean, I think we mentioned in the panel that we just had that, the roles are still going to be there, but they're going to change. So, what are some of the biggest changes that you see in the roles? If they're the same, but what are the things they'll do different?
Yeah, look, I think that is an important thing to sort of think about. We're not trying to remove people from the process. I think it's about finding a way of using data to our advantage. So really looking at the analysis of the data, and so they still need to be good geoscientists, because ultimately they've got to make a decision on whether the the cluster that the computer has said is meaningful in the way it needs to be. So is it really representing, an alteration halo, or is it some artifact of something else? So there's always going to need to be that cross-checking. I kind of made the joke that there'll always be a bearded geologist, I hope, out in the field drinking beer and smacking rocks, but hopefully he'll have a whole lot of other tools as well, and I think data analysis is the obvious tool for that, because you can do some pretty powerful stuff with data analysis these days.
You'll be a data nerd, geo out there.
We're already pretty nerdy. I don't want to go too far down that path.
And we'll just start to wrap this up. I think the last thing, Alison, I know that you definitely attended PDAC last year. What are you seeing in the changes between last year and this year in terms of sentiment at the conference?
Oh, definitely. I guess there's definitely more positivity in the industry. I mean, there's definitely a lot more people here than last year. So there's a lot more people inquiring and have come to our booth in particular. So looking from an acquire perspective, that are inquiring about information management solutions. But just the industry in a whole, there's definitely, I'd still call it cautious positivity, but it's definitely, it's improved a lot from last year and previous years.
And what about you, Stan? What are your thoughts on this year's conference?
I would mirror that. One of the guys that I work with here, Felix Lee, is the first vice president of the PDAC, and so I get some special insights before, and they told me they'd sold out the show from booths, a booth perspective, like I think it was 2 months in advance of where they'd done it the previous year. So it kind of gives you some sentiment about how interested people were in coming here. I would agree. I think the numbers are up on last year, and in the investor side of the trade show, like yesterday, I could hardly walk through it. It was so busy, and all the people I wanted to talk to would have to kind of muscle my way in there to talk to them. So and it's been a great show for us as a company as well. Same sort of thing. We've had a lot of people coming in and inquiring, and we've even won some work, which is always nice.
Even better.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we'll leave that there for today. Make sure you keep an ear out for those listening for the rest of our special edition podcast from PDAC. We'll have a few more coming out, and you can hear those at the Acquire newsroom at acquire.com.au. And lastly, thanks for joining us today, Stan.
You're welcome, Misha. It's a pleasure.
And thank you, Alison.
Thanks, Mish.
Thanks, everyone.
You've been listening to Acquire's podcast, The Jim Channel. Find us at acquire.com.au.